So what does this mean when you read about yourself in a newspaper and you didn't do anything about it? Are you saying that you're okay with that?
No, I do realize that newspapers are part of the media infrastructure, of which I'm a stakeholder. So I understand greatly that they do have to make money.
A stakeholder of which media?
Well, I'm a stakeholder in the media house here in Zimbabwe,
Right.
which I think the Herald happens to be a subsidiary.
Right. So you're a stakeholder.
I have no issues with them printing stories that will be sold, because that is obviously profit taking on their behalf, and that obviously brings hopefully dividends to the shareholders.
Right.
Yes.
So you are okay with having yourself put in the Herald simply because you're a stakeholder and you understand the business of selling a newspaper?
Well, no, I'm not okay with it. But obviously, downstream, the executives and the people within the structures of the organization would not put up an article if they didn't think it was going to give them any returns.
But that's no justification.
It is no justification.
Right, because this is what we're hoping we're discussing.
Yes, we are discussing it. But you have to look at, if I wear my hat over here of being part of the institution, and then I wear my hat of being part of Frank, there's conflict.
Right.
So I've got to look at it from both sides. So yes, I do suffer great prejudice, but on the other side, they don't.
Right.
So the world is not very fair.
Right.
But that's how life goes. We are currently living in a situation where the police have formed an opinion on me, and their opinion is that they will not investigate my matters.
Do you have evidence of that? Or is it the way that you have got no response that gives you that impression?
I have evidence in that I have written 3 letters to the Commissioner of Police.
Commissioner General Chihuri?
Doctor.
Right, yes.
I've gone to visit him at his offices in Harare, and he has neglected to see me. And I've left my business card at his reception. I have not had a response.
What is the content of your letters?
I have made various police reports citing various frauds perpetrated against my enterprise and my establishment.
Right.
And none of those have been investigated. I have gone to see the National Prosecuting Authority then and now, then under, I think it was Tamana.
Prosecutor
General Honorable Tamana. And now I went to see a gentleman called Chris Mtingadura, who promised me that the matter was going to go to court. But up to now, we seem to be in limbo because there is no turning of the wheels of justice in that department. I mean, I have lost out on rentals for the past 5-6 years because of the direct instigation against my enterprises with the police. And I don't know what to say. I mean, they one minute, they're my friends. 1 minute they're after me. So I don't know what to make of it, really.
Right.
Yeah, it's quite difficult and daunting at the same time. Yes.
How do you select which ones to record?
Well, what happened is in 2008, there was a gentleman called Mr. Kareem.
Right.
And he reported. I mean, I think I bought a pickup truck from him. And, he signed an agreement, and soon after signing the agreement, he ran off to the police, to his friend at Armored House, which is a fraud squad, and said, oh, well, Frank did not, I never signed this agreement. It's a fraud. And, they came round to see me and arrested me, and they said, Frank, this is a fraud. This was not Mr. Kareem's signature. I told them it was. And at the time, but I didn't know what to do. My lawyer of record at the time was a gentleman called Farai Mutamengira, and he came through and he says, Frank, look, for all intents and purposes, when you're talking about small money here, why don't you just let this go and give a guy back his car? And I said, no, I can't do that as a matter of principle.
Because you knew what was right for you, but you had no evidence at the time.
Well, I mean, the evidence was the agreement of sale, and what the police should have done is conducted a forensic investigation of the documents, just fingerprints,
signature,
everything. But they never did that. But they were quick to throw me into prison for a couple of days.
Is that when you got arrested?
Well, I've been arrested several times,
yes,
but on that particular time, I remember because I had 90 mosquito bites when I came out. And
you got thrown into Central?
One of the police stations, Central,
Yes.
And I was there, I had newspapers, I had to use newspapers as a blanket, and I had to, endure the wrath of the principles of justice at that level.
Right. Because of this particular instance where they didn't do the test to check that was indeed his signature.
No, what obviously happened is this Mr. Kareem obviously gave a drink or something or some $50 to these guys to arrest me, which is what happens.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I was suffering in the cells in the winter, getting bitten by mosquitoes.
How long were you in there?
Well, I was in there for longer than the Constitution allows, which is 48 hours.
Yeah.
So I could have been in there for 3 days, and my lawyer at the time just said, "Look, Frank, let it go because you're worth more than this." And
so you spent 3 days probably in Central.
In and out, because what they do is they take you in there and they drive you around, a couple of places and then bring you back. Whether that's to log you in and log you out so that the hours escalate, I don't know. But
I see.
They have so many things
that
lengthy. Yes,
right.
And it's really to sort of dig into you and make you feel
and
the
break
pain.
you.
And through the Constitution, through even 2013, the Declaration of Rights. There's right to dignity, right to a fair trial, right to this, right to that. And I think there are limitations when it comes to the handling of certain cases with these individuals.
And were you alone in your cell?
Yes, I was, but there were other people that were coming in and going out. Obviously, it was in 2008. I don't quite recall exactly what happened, but I was on my own.
Because we do hear many horror stories, Mr. Buyanga, about our prisons here in Zimbabwe. And like you said, you have been arrested a couple of times. What would you say is the one thing that stood out to you the most as a complete infringement on human dignity?
I think at one stage I was clapped by a certain detective, and he clapped me and told me to concede, and I found that quite inhumane. And at the time, there's nothing much I could do about it.
Right.
Yes.
So the actual conditions themselves, like you talked about, you were using newspaper for a blanket.
I used newspapers because there's a bunch of newspapers, and I just got them and piled them on top of myself.
Do they provide that for that purpose, or they were just there? You couldn't know what.
Look, maybe. I know that they do provide blankets because I have been in other cells where they do provide blankets.
Right.
Maybe whether this was a singular case to bring maximum pain to me, I don't know. But I do know that the structures do allow for blankets. Yeah. But so, this was obviously a unique case.
Right, sure. I like the analogy you gave, obviously, of the microcosm affecting the macrocosm.
Yes, indeed.
When, looked at, some people will say that it is what is happening on a macro scale that's affecting our micro behavior.
Indeed.
Because it is an escape for some, it is an excuse. There are just circumstances that will find people in those sort of situations.
It's a shifting of blame.
Yeah.
No one is ready to take the yoke on their back and actually ride with it.
Of course.
It is always, okay, let me go to that one. When I'm done with that one, I'll deal with. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's a systematic arrangement.
Dog
and
eats dog.
I think we really need a social contract to address these issues. But I mean,
does this frustrate the business environment? Because,
it certainly does.
I mean, because
it certainly does.
We're talking about the justice delivery system. We're talking about media ethics, but even from businessman to businessman, how has this moral decay, so to speak, affected business between you and your business partners?
You should understand something. The justice delivery system is autonomous. It has it does not relate to the executive.
Right.
So people have faith in the justice delivery system. Once the justice delivery system does not operate, it's a free for all. I mean, it's people take the law into their own hands.
Right.
So you find things happening and you don't know how they're happening.
Right.
But because when you grow up in a home, if your father or your mother does not relate to you in a manner that is conducive to the humanitarian nature around you, you're going to be the same. And that is what is happening. So by us having corrupt police and nepotism in the structures, everyone will just put up their hands and say, well, let's run with it. Why let them do it? Right. Why let them have brand new cars? Might as well do the same. Why pay this? Why pay that? Right. They're not paying it. Right. Might as well do it.
No,
it's rampant.
Sure. No.
I want justice. I believe in justice.
Right. For everyone or for yourself?
I believe in justice for everyone. That's why when I came back to this country in 2013, after having been away for 2 years on Interpol red notice, which I had to go up to Lyon in France and deal with these matters. We had letters coming in from Interpol head office. After I could not travel, I was on the red notice, not on the purple notice,
and
not
that
on
was
the yellow
under
notice.
then Prosecutor General Johannes Tomana.
Yes, I mean I was put under Interpol.
That's serious.
Yes,
I mean you don't get a red notice on Interpol if you're innocent.
I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Wherever I traveled, I had to travel under presidential protocol from South Africa.
Right.
That's the only way I could travel. Otherwise, I was stuck. And you need to realize that the situation when I got back here in 2013, I looked at the economy. I looked at the state of this economy. And I said, surely I can't go after these people. Because, I mean, poor old grannies and you know, families. They're trying to live under. So I felt bad about it. But I felt, now this is what's happened to me. They're coming back after me. So I'm going to deal with it.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to put the daggers down now.
Right.
Because
enough
you know,
is enough. At
enough
some
is
point.
enough.
Right.
You know, they're represented by some lawyer called Granger Harvey, who's a fraud, who I've written to the Law Society.
Why would you say he's a fraud?
He's a fraud because he lied under oath. He's got an affidavit where he made a police officer sign under oath. I mean, they were representing some lady called Irene Chiwara.
Right.
And what happened is this police officer, or this Granger Harvey, is a fraud.
Right.
And I've written to the Law Society under the old leadership of the Law Society. They did nothing about it. Recently, I've got another case now where there's another lawyer, Tumuka Moyo, whatever, he calls himself some guy. And I've written to the Law Society letting them know that he submitted fake documentations in court. Not only has he done that, and I've got investigations going on under different serial numbers, he's also lied to a judge in front of the judge's face. Right. I haven't brought that up. The judge is not, you know, smart enough to know that this guy's a liar. You know, silver-tongued demagogue as they go, these lawyers. And that's what's happened. Yeah.